Hey everyone, and welcome to Founders365 with me, Stephen Haggerty. Today we have one of the co-founders of NuOceans, Mr. Flavio Affinito. And I really like saying his surname like that. I don't know why. How are you doing, Flavio?
I'm doing very well. Thanks, Stephen. Thanks for the invite. Excited to be here.
No, thank you for coming on. I'm super excited to hear more about NuOceans and what I would say you're a company with a mission, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And we're going to jump into that and all sorts. So for anyone that doesn't know you or doesn't know what NuOceans represents, what is NuOceans?
So NuOceans is a startup right now. We're a very young startup that was created with the purpose of tackling big environmental catastrophes. And what we started with was plastic pollution. So we really focused on, where is plastic pollution being tackled and where is it not being tackled? And when we had actually not that very long a look, a pretty quick look, we realized that there's this huge amount of pollution that's caused by, believe it or not, flip-flops, like just your standard kind of cheap quality average flip-flops. They actually account for 10 to 20% of every single beach clean, and they're recyclable.
Wow.
We realized that was going on, and other than one company in Kenya, no one was really doing anything about it. So we thought, right, okay, what we want to do is make a difference. We want to tackle big environmental challenges, and right here that no one's doing anything about. So let's go ahead, let's find a solution, let's do something about it. So we set up to essentially reuse these old flip-flops and make new pairs of sandals.
Wow, that, like I said, a company with a mission. I'm shocked that 20% of every beach cleanup is flip-flops.
Yeah, it's absolutely incredible because, most beach cleanups, they happen in countries, developing countries, a lot in Africa, quite a bit in Southeast Asia, also South America. And over there, that's what most people wear. It's all flip-flops. Yeah. Most of the world actually wears flip-flops on a daily basis. There's so many of them that are being produced, millions of pairs every year. Havaianas alone sells a crazy amount of pairs, about like 400 million or something like that, which is one company. And there's plenty of others, really small ones, and people wear them and then they just discard them or they just lose them. All sorts of things happen, and they just around and end up on the beach because they're quite big. Most of the time they don't degrade too much.
Yeah,
they get washed up a lot.
It's when you first spotted this problem, what was going through your head in terms of wanting to find a solution?
Yeah, well, I'd say actually this is way at the beginning. I was actually working in research. So I was a researcher. I'd worked here in London with Imperial College. So I worked on global warming and that kind of the effect on animals. And then I went off to study marine mammals in Montenegro and the Balkans. So I was working in research, and because that's where my passion was, it was in marine biology. And when my friends invited me back to come back to London and do something together, the only real criteria we had is we want to do something that matters. We want to tackle a big environmental challenge. And we sat essentially in my mum's living room for a whole week, just brainstorming everything that came to mind. And one of the topics that came to mind was how about, plastic pollution, because obviously it's a really big topic right now, and there's things going on around it. So we don't just want to throw reusable bottle or whatever, because we don't need that right now. We need a real solution to something else.
Yeah.
We were just, throwing ideas out. And one of the ideas that came out was, hey, what about flip-flops? And then we're like, oh yeah, what about flip-flops? What's interesting about flip-flops? At that stage, we didn't really know anything about flip-flops. And so we started digging into it, and we were like, wait a minute, this is actually huge. This is actually a big problem that no one's talking about. So we just, at the end of that full week, we had a bunch of other ideas. We spoke to people. We spoke to over 300-400 people about all of our ideas. And everyone was like, oh, that flip-flop idea, that's a really cool idea. How about that one? And that's how it started, essentially. Yeah. Okay, that's the right idea. It's close to my heart because it's marine biology, essentially. And people love it, we love it, and it's a big problem.
Massive. It's funny how you said that everyone said that, oh, no one's talking about it, because when I think about when I've gone on holiday or or when I lived in France, I used to just buy flip-flops almost like they were plastic bags, right? You need some flip-flops, you go and buy some. I never thought about it in the sense of what happens to them, which is really awful of me now. You're making me feel really bad. But I'm guessing that's the same with pretty much everyone, right?
Yeah. I mean, we're not at all here to start blaming people and telling them you've been
my fault
buying these flip-flops and so on. Because the truth is, most people, there's not even like there's a standard material in the industry. People are doing whatever the hell they want with a whole bunch of different materials coming from a whole bunch of different places. Even when we say plastics, it's not like there's one plastic for flip-flops.
Yeah.
Alone in one polymer, you can have like 6 or 7 different types, which the real problem comes from. They're completely recyclable. You can't mix them. So people don't know. They just get told, here's a pair of flip-flops. Most of them assume it's rubber, which is terrible. And, in most cases, it's not actually rubber, it's plastic. But people don't necessarily associate these kind of soft materials to plastic. And it's sold really cheaply. So I wouldn't blame consumers, but it's something that people can know now because it's not a secret anymore.
Yeah. So what are you doing with them? What happens to the flip-flops when they come into the NuOcean recycling plant? Let's put it that way.
Yeah. So that was the initial challenge. So when we said, here we go, we're going to do this, use these flip-flops, look at us come, we quite quickly realized why no one was reusing them. They're not that easy to reuse.
Yeah.
A lot of materials, most of them unrecyclable. What you pick up off the beach, some of it's okay, some of it's completely degraded by the sun, the salt, whatever. So our first challenge was what are we working with? What are the materials that we're finding? B, what condition are they in? And C, what can we do about with them? So we tried recycling in the traditional sense, which is essentially you melt it down, you chop it up, and then you reuse it almost as new by mixing it with other things. And quite quickly we realized that all of the stuff we were trying to melt down was actually burning. And that's it. You can't do anything with it. So quite quickly we saw, okay, we actually can't recycle it. We tested it here in the UK. We tested it in Austria, tested it in Italy. We even tested it in Indonesia. And everyone was like, no, guys, there's nothing we can do with this. It's just a disaster. So we actually, speaking to other people, looking at what other people were doing. And we spoke to one of our volunteers in Indonesia who does plastic collection. And she was saying, oh, I know this guy in Thailand, this professor who's actually working with these materials. Why don't you give him a call? And so I thought, yeah, okay, sure. Let's have a chat with him. And that's when we realized that this guy in Thailand actually came up with a really cool idea. So we started working with him. And essentially, we're not even recycling in the traditional sense. We're just upcycling. So we're picking up these materials, giving them a nice clean, putting them together, and then we process them by shredding them, heating them, gluing them together, and we get these new sheets of materials from these old pair of flip-flops. So we go from essentially a pile of waste flip-flops to nice square sheets that we can then reuse to make sandals.
Right, got you. So what is the difference in very layman terms between the recycling and upcycling?
Well, essentially recycling involves a lot of chemistry most of the time. It's not just mechanical things, because for recycling you need some chemistry knowledge. You need to remix the materials. That's why people tell you you can't recycle indefinitely, because most of the time when you recycle you mix with new things. You get a lot of it recycled and then a little bit new. But with upcycling, you're essentially just taking it and using mechanical processes to do something new with it. So you're not treating the materials. Well, I mean, we're cleaning them and all that kind of stuff. You're not treating them with any hard chemicals, or you're not mixing them with any new chemicals. You're just taking something old, processing it mechanically, and doing something new with it.
Got you. So there's another number of founders within NuOceans, right?
Yeah.
What are the individual roles within you, and how did you guys come up with a dynamic that works?
That's a great question. We took quite some time actually before defining roles, because when we started, as I mentioned, there's just 2 of us. So one good friend I met when I came to London for university. So we'd known each other for like 5-6 years at that point. So it was just 2 of us, and we just did everything. And most of the time we even did everything together, because neither of us were business background people. So we were learning as we were going, and looking back on it, there's so many things we could have done. We just did everything together.
Even if you had the team from day one, it still would have been the same.
For sure. And then the other guy who joined us, I actually met him when I was 6 years old. So we've been friends for so long, back when I was living in Belgium as a kid. And he had a business background, and I knew him because we were good friends, and he was ambitious as well. And he wanted to do something that matters and something for him. So that's why when we invited him to come and check out what we were doing and see if he wanted to join, he did. He worked with us for 2 weeks, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I'm coming. I'm joining." So that's how we ended up with essentially the 3 founders. And as things evolved, really, as the business got more and more complex, and there was just more and more things to handle, is when we started realizing that we couldn't all do everything.
Yeah,
so people had to specialize, and essentially, the only way we picked specialties was pretty much what you like best. Because all 3 of us, we're fairly competent guys. We've got degrees from nice, good universities. So it's not like there was significant skill differences between us. So it didn't make sense, for instance, to have one do the mathematics because he was better. I mean, financials, when I say mathematics, financials because he was better at mathematics or something like that. We didn't really have that because for myself, for instance, I have a statistics degree, but it just wasn't what I enjoyed.
Yeah.
So a guy who does finances. And on the contrary, I quite like, what we're doing right now. I quite like the speaking. I quite like writing. I quite like being engaging. So I do the pitching. I do the pitching. I do the chatting on podcasts. I do writing our story. I do a lot of that just because I like it best. So we ended up with Terry, who's my co-founder from Imperial. So he essentially became CFO. So these titles, we picked them because it's just the roles they most. I became COO because I deal a lot with the suppliers. I do a lot of the operations, really, data, a lot of these kind of communication events. And Adrien, he became CTO because he's the guy who's in touch mostly with the manufacturers, who makes sure that things happen on a tangible side. But it's still really flexible. Like CTO, we call him CTO, but if I need support with something, he's come and supports me. If Terry needs support, so the roles, they're not hard set roles. They're just roles that work for what we like best.
Yeah, exactly. And you've been going a year and a half now. What have you seen? What challenges have you come across as a business rather than the huge challenge of climate change that you're trying to conquer here?
Yeah. Well, everything takes a lot longer than you plan, I would say, was our first lesson.
Yeah.
So I'd say actually one of the challenges that delayed us significantly after we succeeded in making our first prototypes is because we actually succeeded. The very first prototypes we made, we did them within a year. Within a year of saying we're going to do this, we managed to do our first prototypes.
Fantastic.
Now we're actually half a year after those first prototypes, and we're only starting to see our almost final models. So within sight of launch, but we still don't have those final launch models. So that actually, I would say, is due to when you're new, when you're small, even though you have a great idea, people, they don't know if you're worth their time. So a lot of the manufacturers we've worked with, the guys we work with are brilliant because the reason they work with us is because they like our message. They like what we stand for, and they're willing to put in some effort to support us because they believe in what we do and because they also want to do something like that. So our manufacturers and suppliers that we still work with to this day, even though it's taken so long, are people who are like that, who adhere to our message. But the reality of it, the hard truth is, if you're not going to order tons of materials from a supplier or thousands of pairs from a manufacturer, then you're just not a priority. And prototypes, it takes a lot of their time because they're trying new things. They're doing stuff that, especially with us, they've never done before. They've never even tried those materials. And they've got no guarantee that we're going to order anything at the end of the day because we don't know what we're going to order or how much we're going to order from them. So I'd say that was one of the biggest challenges, just being the small guy. You really have to, and the only way to overtake that challenge is you always have to be like really 100% integrity, always deliver on time what you promise, always make sure that you support the people. If they're not coming back to you, it's almost your problem. It's not their problem. So it's our responsibility to figure out, what's going on. Why are you not coming back to us? Is
Yeah.
it we didn't provide? Is it something you're dealing with? You really have to keep that communication ongoing and be responsible for everything, because as the small guy, no one's going to be responsible for you.
Massively. That's almost the quote of the year, I think, for founders. No one's responsible for you. It's I've heard it a lot already this year.
Yeah.
Being that small guy, being that small, I guess you guys are almost classed as a manufacturing company, right?
Almost. Yeah, we could be.
Yeah.
We wouldn't go down that route.
Yeah. And where are you doing the manufacturing? Are you doing it in the UK or in Asia?
Right now, we actually work in Spain. Spain and Portugal,
Ah.
we work mostly. We have intentions of bringing it in-house in the future, but
Yeah.
currently, the best, because the way we've designed our sandals, the new ones, we've actually made them in a way that we're fully responsible. So once they're old and done with, once you don't want them anymore, we take them back and we make new pairs from that pair that we sold you originally, and get a discount on your next pair.
Yeah.
So because of that idea, we wanted to set up in Europe, because we wanted to be able to recuperate them and manage them in Europe without having to ship them back to Asia.
Yeah, long-term cost.
Yeah, exactly. And even just the environmental impact is why it just fit better with our mission. So yeah, that's why we wanted to set up in Europe. And when we had a look at Europe, just the better places for what we work on, our products, was just Spain and Portugal. We looked at the UK a bit, but the UK is really, really high-end shoes. It's not really a sandal country.
I wonder why.
Yeah, the weather is just. Yeah. Italy was quite a good contender as well, but we just got better answers from Spain and Portugal.
That's interesting. And what's really great to hear is that the manufacturers are on board with your mission, or on board with your message. That must be really nice. That must have been a really nice relief to you when they were communicating that.
Yeah, well, it was, and it took also us being like really honest and open with them, saying, this is what we're up to, because we know we're not going to be your number one client tomorrow, but this is why we're doing this. So this is why we're asking you out of the blue, even though we don't know and we have no contact with you, to give us a hand.
Exactly. So the prototype is ready. You've done that.
Yep.
You've signed it off as a business.
Yes.
What's next? When can people start wearing these upcycled, amazing NuOcean sandals? Have you got a funky name for them, or are you just calling them NuOcean sandals?
Currently, we're just calling them NuOcean sandals. We don't have anything. We've been toying with the idea of beach sandals, but it's not really fun. It's just another adjective. So for now, just NuOceans. But that's a very good question, and I wish I could give a answer, because I've been giving a definitive answer for a while, and now I have to face the truth that that's not going to be my final answer. But I am doing my utmost, and the guys with me are doing their utmost, so we can deliver. The very first people who will get a hand on those sandals will be this summer.
Yeah. How have you done pre-demand for it at the moment?
So far, because we've actually had to delay launch so many times, we've limited the amount of pre-orders we've been taking, because we don't want. We want to take those pre-orders once we know what the product will look like, or at least almost 100% final product, and that will be by the end of this month, mid next month. We will have those final models, and from there we intend to actually start showing, because we've got a lot of people who've said, mostly right now friends and families, to be honest, because we've only just started to share our message.
Of course,
across the wider web. But yeah, people who hear about us, they like the idea.
Fantastic.
People have liked the first kind of MVP model. You can see it on our Instagram. I actually forgot to bring one with me right now, but it's on our Instagram at NuOceans Ltd.
There we go.
So you can see what that MVP looks like, minimal viable product. But that's how we've done pre-orders. People we know, people we've met, events we go and have a chat at. Speaking really.
From where I'm sitting, it sounds like this would have been a really great business to go down the crowdfunding route. Why didn't you do that?
Yeah, well, that's a very good question, because that's exactly what we were talking about today.
Yeah.
Right now, we're actually at this stage where essentially we're going to need some
money
to create those few pairs and to launch this product. And we've got a bunch of different routes open to us, and I'd say the two obvious ones for us specifically are the angel route, and the crowdfunding route.
Yeah, massively.
Have their pros and cons, and a combination of both is probably what we're going to end up going for. But crowdfunding is totally the perfect. We are a very good company for a crowdfunding approach.
Yeah, exactly.
Because of what we created. So that is definitely not something I would say we haven't done. We're not doing. It's just something we haven't done yet.
Yeah.
It is extremely likely we will be running a crowdfunding campaign spring this year to support.
Very exciting. And are you already talking to angel investors or not quite yet?
Yes, we have also started talking to angel investors, like both of which, the crowdfunding and the angels, we're doing at the same time. There's 2020, we were like, okay, this is the year now. Happens. We've talked about it, we've worked on it, now we launch. It doesn't matter what the launch looks like, we will launch. So we started the year 2020 with essentially kind of recap where we're at, where we're going, and we realized, these are two things we need to do. We need to settle on crowdfunding or angels or a combination of both and come up with a strategy that's going to work. So, right now I'm speaking to so I'm meeting with 2 angels already next week. We've already spoken to 4 or 5, and I'm starting to speak to even more of them as we talk now.
Fantastic. No, that's really good to hear. I was getting slightly worried that you were just gonna be limited to your friends and family and who they know. It's always quite scary when you see businesses not rely on it, but not have that other options in their heads.
Yeah, but I mean, the honest truth is that's where you start.
Yeah, of course.
Really where you start, because even some of the angels we found, you find them through the friend of a friend of a friend at the end of the day. And that's how you get that introduction in the first place.
Everyone knows someone, right?
Yeah, exactly.
What have you seen in the UK in terms of who you've spoken to already, in terms of the reception to it, and how the reception is going to plan into that original idea? That idea when you were sat in your mum's front living room, and it was that pin drop moment where you all kind of went, yeah, this could be it.
Yeah, I think being in Western Europe and the UK specifically has been a really good place to be in, and a really strong catalyst for us doing this in the first place, because especially in Europe, Southeast Asia to an extent as well, they've definitely started that conversation a lot. The US, touch and go, depends who you speak to.
Yeah.
Europe and in the UK specifically, it's really an ongoing topic of conversation. You've got David Attenborough here, who's a huge figure, and people know about him, and he's been talking about this. He had his show specifically on plastic quite recently, so it's a really big conversation in the UK, the plastic.
Massively. How do you get David Attenborough wearing NuOceans sandals? That's the dream, right?
That's the question we have pondered upon. We have wondered maybe we should just go knock on his door with a box and leave it there by the entrance with a note.
Exactly. Send him a pair every day this year, and he'll eventually get it. But then I think that's contradicting the whole purpose of it. But
yeah, we don't want to, because they're going to waste those poor pairs.
Yeah, no, you just leave them on his doorstep. If they're still there in 24 hours, you donate them somewhere else.
Exactly. We need to check his shoe size though.
Yeah, I'm sure you can work that out somehow. You must be able to.
Yeah.
What's I'm always interested in, because I've got some clients that are 3 people founders. How's that for you in terms of being in a dynamic where you're 3 main founders with a couple of other co-founders?
I would say that to me was essential. None of this would have happened if I didn't have at least one other founder with me. I'm not gonna flatter myself here saying like I would have gone at it by myself, being like, here we go, I'm gonna change the world, I'm gonna do it all by myself. That is totally untrue. I was really comfortable where I was. I was doing well in my chosen career. Things were happening for me, and to an extent, I was happy with what I was doing. I wasn't really satisfied, which is why all this happened. But I was doing well. So having this dynamic, this extra founder who is not just a founder. It's not like I said, oh, I have this idea, I'm going to go out look for someone who also wants to start a business. It's a really good friend. The first founder, we knew each other for 6 years when we started this. We lived with each other for 2 years out of those 6 years, and during university. And the other founder, as I mentioned, I met him when I was 6, he was 7.
Yeah.
So through many years of school together, even though our paths diverged after school, we stayed in contact, and having that dynamic is really, really important, because it's like having someone you can be open with. And actually, that is something that came up a few times. We got to a point where we started being transactional with each other, and where it was business, and we became these business partners. Forgot that, we're not business partners to start with, we're friends. And it was when we had that realization, which was actually not that long ago, probably 6-7 months ago, so we'd already been going for a while, we realized that we'd lost that, and that made the adventure a lot less fun. And it was all about business, and it wasn't really an adventure of people. And having these close relationships, and restoring the fact that we're friends and we need to be there for each other as well as for the business, really makes it work. Because if I didn't have the support of these two friends I have, and even the rest of the team, it just wouldn't work for me.
Yeah, definitely. That's really nicely put. I think that issue comes up a lot, where the founders are friends first, and then they forget that friendship, and they forget the purpose of why they started the business. And that key word you just said, the fun, right? Building and running a business shouldn't be the most serious thing you do in your life. It should be fun. It should be passionate. It should be driven. And the moment that fun and passion sort of starts to fade, you really notice it, right? I bet you felt it. And I bet there was some friction within the team and all that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, totally.
What have you put in place to make sure that doesn't happen again?
Well, I think one thing we put in place was because actually two of us are here in the UK, but the other founder is in Belgium still. So we have a lot of meetings. We do them via video call like this. And one thing we put in place is that when we have these meetings, we actually recreate for ourselves, represent for ourselves why we do what we do. And that's something that we keep bringing up, because otherwise, speaking to all these angels, writing this billionth grant application, crunching to it's not fun. It's not even inspiring. It's just work. But why we do it is what's there for us. So I think that's one thing we do. We always bring back why what we're up to. And another thing we do is we make sure that we have chats about how's personal life, what are you dealing with, like just honestly, what's going on right now. Are you feeling down because we don't have enough income right now, so we're kind of tight on things? Or is your girlfriend and your relationship with your girlfriend being a bit rough right now? Anything really that's happening is something we bring up to each other so that we can support each other with it.
Fantastic. That sounds like you guys have really found the flow of how your business dynamic should work. It's just great to hear. So, we, especially with the sort of business you have, where you want it to be long lasting, you want to be able to create this change, this difference, you've got to have that such a strong foundation for the founders, which you guys have cracked by the sounds of it, which is fantastic. Congratulations on that. So NuOceans project, soon to be in people's feet or hands. I don't know how we want to sell it. But what else, apart from the funding rounds that you guys have set for 2020, what else is happening this year for you guys?
So actually, because that's a really good question, because NuOceans, so obviously is about, so it's about these funding rounds, it's about these sandals, old flip-flops, new sandals that we want to sell, that we want to create. But we're actually, one thing that came up quite early when we were debating where we want to go and what we want to create is that we really think this is a first step. It's really important to get that plastic out of the ocean and do something with it and be responsible with our products, with our materials, what we sell, what we use. But reusing and picking up is never going to be the solution. And you really need to get down to what the root problem is in the first place. And as far as we're concerned, the root problem is consumerism, education in the status quo, and the way people keep being taught and think right now. And we need to get to a really young age to get people, because kids, they know they don't want to be killing the planet. They don't want to be eating every day. They don't want to all this stuff that we just take for granted because we've been around it for a while. So if they're educated straight from the start, if they get shown in fun, happy ways what it could be like and what they can do about it, we really think that they will not make these mistakes. And if they don't make them, then once we go, no one will be making them anymore.
Yeah.
So we've actually quite early in our project, we partnered with a children's book author because our idea was really cool. And I was messing around in the kitchen, having a laugh, and saying, it wouldn't be cool if we had the story of Flippy and Floppy and what they do to save the oceans. And from there, we're like, wait a minute, this could work. So she is working, well, has worked. She's finished writing this book that is essentially a really lively, happy book for young children to show them via what we do what they can do about the situation and where we're at, where we could go, and to, in an uplifting manner, show them the way forward. So this book is essentially written, and everything we do about it, that entire book is not for profit. So our next big step after these flip-flops is to get this book printed on this new material as well that we found. It's a material that doesn't require any water.
Oh, wow.
Waterproof, completely recyclable. So the book itself is also really responsible. And yeah, so we want to get that book written, published.
Schools, I'm guessing.
Start getting it out to schools, to education programs, to whoever, and all of it not for profit. Everything we sell to the book, every profit we make is all to be reinvested in more beach cleans, education programs in developing countries, like just as responsible as we can on a social side as well.
Yeah.
Because the environmental problem will only be solved if the social problem is tackled as well.
Through the education.
Yeah.
Yeah. The education is the hardest bit though, isn't it? It's because you can, like you said, kids are already saying that they don't want to ruin the planet. They're already having these conversations, which is great. And from what I've seen from like quite a young age, which is incredible, because I remember in primary school, we weren't having those conversations, right?
No.
But they're still going home to the older generation that, to put it lightly, I guess, probably don't care as much. How do you battle that though? How do you get the parents to read the book to the child?
Well, that's a very good question. How do you get the parents? To be fair, I think it's not even us who will get the parents to do it. It's actually the children. Because the children are the one who are talking about these things, bringing them, going to their parents, being like, "Mom, I just learned today that if we eat beef every day, the planet's going to die. So I don't want to eat this steak anymore. We need less meat or whatever." And then the parents, I think, are actually the ones who cave into the children. Do what the children want. So we almost think that if we get the children to see these things and be interested and be engaged, they almost don't know when to shut up. So they say these things, and then the parents are kind of forced into it. And the more parents do it, the more the resistant ones will do it. And I think we need to be as responsible as we can, our generations, and they are also the future generation. And any resistance in between, it needs to come from both ends. Both being directly to people, being like, "Look, this is what needs to change," and from the children being like, "Look, Mom, Dad, this doesn't work. I learned it at school. We need to do something about it."
Yeah, you need to get the children as highly motivated as they are in a sweet shop when they want some candy.
Exactly.
That's the goal.
Like kids on the streets. I wasn't on the streets when I was a child. They are motivated. You know what I mean? The marches, the school, the Friday.
Oh yeah. I thought you just meant like playing in the street. I was like,
no, sorry.
I always rode my bike in the street.
No, I was on the streets as well.
You could have gone into like a really dark place of your childhood then. I was like, okay, let's pull it out.
No. The protest.
Protesting. You do see it. You see a massive age shift in what people are wanting, which is fantastic. And I completely on board with this. We need more of it. We need better education. I think we need to be personally. I also think we need to be educating the older generation or re-educating the older generation, and getting that care factor in somehow. I don't know how that could be done in an easy way to reach them, because the great thing is with educating children and young people, it's a very easy in. You can get in through the schools, through even through Facebook ads and things like this where they're hanging out. So it's a very easy win. And that book idea is great, and I'm really glad that you're really making NuOcean more than a product company, and you're making it like, you're making it that pioneering company, and I think that's what's going to make that change and make it last and make you guys go through the investment rounds and get products out there. And as we all know, a product is really just it's just like an enabler for something else, right?
Yes, totally.
And that's fantastic. So, I ask all my guests at the end, what are 3 things that anyone listening to this that you would love to just give them 3 really good tips or value that they should be listening and taking on board?
Is that anyone, or anyone an entrepreneur?
Anyone. Normally, typical listeners and watchers are fellow founders and fellow entrepreneurs.
I would say one of the key things for me is whatever you do, never do it alone. Find some people that matter to you. Find some people that will be close to you, with you. That's one. Number 2, always remind yourself why you're doing what you do. Always hold on to that. That's really important. And number 3, get out there. Speak to people. Make sure you spend more time with others than you do with yourself.
Yeah.
If you're dealing with your ideas and your internal thoughts, speak to people.
That last one is spot on. And one of the reasons I actually started doing live events, networking events last year is because a lot of my clients were saying that they were not getting fed up, but they wanted space where they can just chat to fellow like-minded people. And network like that. Flavio, thank you so much for coming on and sharing this business with you. If anyone wants to connect with you or NuOceans, what's the best way for them to do that?
Anyone who wants to stay up to date with NuOceans, I would say Instagram. Instagram is a great place to be, and our newsletter. So if you go onto our website, nuoceans.com, that's new with a U, you can sign up to our newsletter down there. And with me personally, just get in touch via LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the best place to get in touch with me, and I'll answer.
Here, we hold you to that now. Thank you so much once again. This has been Founders365. I've been Stephen Haggerty. Thanks everyone for watching and listening.